Welcome on board, chosen one. Step in, sit down, and stop pretending you don't know exactly why the room gets quiet when you enter. Stop acting like you didn't survive things that would have folded entire bloodlines. The universe watched you tank hits that were designed to delete you, and you're still here. Meanwhile, the same people who swore you'd break are out there whispering, pacing, checking your page like nervous little interns, waiting to see if the villain woke up today. They said you were too much. They said you'd never recover. They said you'd finally learned your place. Cute lies, temporary delusions. Because look at you now. Look who's still breathing. Look who's still rising. Oh, the legend was supposed to bow, right? The enemy really thought a few betrayals, a few losses, a few emotional nukes would turn you into dust. Instead, you turned every hit into fuel, every wound into data, every heartbreak into strategy. You want to repay this energy? Hit the like button and subscribe so this message reaches the next chosen one climbing out of their own wreckage. Back to business. You're not just surviving anymore, you're shifting the atmosphere. The silence around you now isn't emptiness, it's respect mixed with fear. It's the sound of enemies who don't know which version of you is walking around now, because the one they tried to break doesn't exist anymore. The new you is colder, smarter, sharper. You move different, you breathe different, you choose your words like weapons, and they see it, even when they pretend they don't. You ever notice how they flinch around you now? They don't call it flinching, they call it being cautious. They tell themselves they're just keeping distance. No, they're scared. They're terrified you finally noticed the truth. They're terrified you realized the amount of pain you carried was inhuman. They're terrified you understand how much power it gave you. Because here's the part they can't admit. You endured storms that would have wiped out their entire family trees. You swallowed grief that would have shattered their bones. You walked through emotional warfare they couldn't even spell out loud. This is the moment where most stories talk about destiny or miracles. Forget that. The universe didn't hand you anything for free. It watched you get dragged to the edge, bleeding inside your own mind, begging for silence. It watched you lose people you trusted, fail things you tried for, crumble in places no one will ever know existed. And you still kept going. Not because you're fearless, but because you refused to die with your truth still locked inside you. Let me paint it tighter. Think back to that one night, and you know exactly which one I mean, when the weight on your chest felt like it was trying to split your ribs, when you couldn't tell if you were crying or suffocating. When everything felt wrong and empty and unfair. Your mind was screaming, your heart was numb, and your body felt too heavy to lift. That night created two possible futures. One where you disappeared under the pressure, and one where you became something new. You chose the second one. Don't pretend you didn't. You chose it every time you kept breathing when your world felt uninhabitable. And what about the enemy, the ones who joked about your breaking point, the ones who got braver behind your back, the ones who said you'd never matter without them? They are choking on their own predictions now. Watching you glow from a distance, they can't cross anymore. Trying to figure out how you're still standing when everything they threw at you was meant to bury you. Here's a secret they'll never admit. They didn't expect to be haunted by your strength. They didn't expect to run into people who speak your name with respect now. They didn't expect the world to rotate differently around you. They didn't expect your silence to hit harder than your presence ever did. That silence, chosen one, is the aftermath of the battle you survived. And that silence is loud, too loud for them. You want a story? Here's one. There was a kid once who grew up in chaos. Every year something collapsed. A home, a friendship, a dream. They were told to toughen up, told to take the hits, told to stop feeling so much. One day the kids snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. They looked around and realized they weren't living in a life. They were surviving a battlefield, and instead of becoming hard, they became sharp. Instead of becoming bitter, they became aware. By the time they were grown, nothing scared them anymore. Not because they were fearless, but because they had already met every monster before they even knew monsters had names. Guess who that kid grew up to be? You. Don't argue. Now look where you're standing, in the aftermath, in the ruins. But you're not broken. You're rebuilt. Pain didn't erase you. Betrayal didn't rot you. Loss didn't delete you. Every failure became a lesson. Every heartbreak became armor. Every collapse became a blueprint. You aren't a survivor. You're the evolution of every version of you that refused to die. And now you're becoming something that doesn't have a name yet. Something the universe had to make space for. Something your enemies never wanted to face. Something your ancestors would have pointed at and whispered about. You absorbed pain that should have ended you. Entire bloodlines would have been erased by the things you walked through. But you didn't just survive it. You mutated. You upgraded. You became the one thing this world wasn't ready for. And this is only the beginning. And now listen closely. Chosen one, because this part is for the ones who actually survived their own extinction event. If you're still here after absorbing pain that should have wiped entire bloodlines off the map, then drop 777 in the comments like a silent signature from someone who refused to die in their story. Hit that like button, lock in your subscription, and let this message echo through the people who thought you wouldn't last. You're not watching this by accident. You're here because something in you mutated under pressure, and you can feel it pulling you forward. And trust me, if you truly became the creature this universe wasn't ready for, you won't be able to click away. You'll feel the gravity of what's coming next. Now inhale, steady yourself, and step further into the truth of what you've become, because this is where the real breakdown begins. Number 1. The hurt that should have erased you. Funny how they tried to bury you and ended up fertilizing the legend instead. Let's get something straight before anyone pretends otherwise. What hit you wasn't normal heartbreak, or a rough phase, or whatever cute little label people slap on trauma when they want to downplay the damage they caused. What hit you was the kind of pain that ends bloodlines, the kind of betrayal that rewires DNA, the kind of loss that erases entire futures before they even start. And the fact that you're still here, breathing, watching, learning, that alone is already the punchline to every prophecy your enemies made about you. They said you'd fold. They said you'd disappear. They said the story would end with you crawling away in pieces. And instead, you became the one thing they never prepared for, the survivor that refuses to stay silent. Let's talk about what should have happened, that betrayal, the one that hit you so hard you felt your ribcage squeezing your lungs. That was supposed to end you. You know exactly which moment I'm talking about. The night everything flipped. The second you realized the people you trusted weren't just careless, they were calculated. They didn't accidentally hurt you. They gambled on breaking you, and they bet everything on your collapse. That moment should have been your deletion, a psychological extinction event. Most people would have sunk, drowned, vanished under that weight. But you took that hit like the universe forged you out of something unbreakable. And what about that loss, the one that made the world feel blurry, wrong, hollow? The one that threw you into that spiral where nothing felt real anymore. That should have snapped something vital inside you. That should have been the ending of your story arc. The moment the narrator says, "And that's when they finally gave up." But you didn't. Not even close. You walked through that reality glitch like someone who wasn't afraid of losing anything anymore. Because everything worth keeping was already ripped from you anyway. Then there's the abandonment, the coldest one, the silent exit, the kind that leaves you talking to ceilings at 4 a.m., wondering if you were ever truly seen or just used as a placeholder for somebody else's comfort. That kind of abandonment erases generations. It destroys identity. It mutates self-worth. It should have erased you. You were supposed to crumble into the version of yourself they expected, a quiet, obedient, half-alive shadow, but instead you became something sharper, something unpredictable, something their guilt still wakes up sweating over. Want a fact? Most people don't survive this level of emotional warfare. They collapse, they numb out, they become ghosts in their own bodies. But you swallowed the venom whole and kept moving. You metabolized poison like it was protein. You carried wounds that should have destroyed your sanity, and instead of breaking, you upgraded. You became a creature built from aftermaths, forged in collapses, carved out of things that were meant to end you. And here's the part your enemies can't stand. You didn't just survive their hit. You learned from it. You studied the patterns. You saw their selfishness, their entitlement, their lack of loyalty. You caught every detail they hoped you'd overlook. And now you move like someone whose eyes are permanently open. They hate that. They hate that you walk with a calm that comes from surviving the impossible. They hate that your silence now feels heavier than your words ever did. They hate that you don't react to them anymore. They hate that you outgrew the box they tried to bury you in. You ever wonder why they act nervous around you now? Why they avoid long eye contact? Why they replay the things they said to you in the back of their mind like a guilty soundtrack? It's because they're realizing something terrifying. You weren't supposed to survive. They designed your downfall with confidence. They thought you'd break exactly where they planned, but you didn't just refuse to fall. You made the fall your training ground. Every hit made you colder. Every betrayal made you more aware. Every loss sharpened your instinct. And now you walk like someone who has seen the worst the world can do and decided to keep going anyway. Let me pull this deeper. There was a version of you, soft, hopeful, trusting, who believed in people more than they believed in themselves. That version of you took the first hit. That version cried, collapsed, begged for closure, asked why me 1,000 times. But then something shifted. You got tired of bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You got tired of explaining your heart to people who had none. You got tired of waiting for apologies that were never coming. That version of you didn't die. It evolved. It shed its skin. It chose survival over sentiment. And this is what your enemies never predicted. Pain didn't turn you into a victim. It turned you into a problem, a walking anomaly, a glitch in their system. You became someone who doesn't beg to be understood anymore. You became someone who doesn't crumble when someone leaves. You became someone who doesn't chase validation. Your solitude became your laboratory. Your heartbreak became your handbook. Your suffering became your syllabus. And you mastered every lesson they prayed you'd never figure out. Here's the truth they can't digest. You're not the same person they hurt. You're not even in the same species at this point. Pain forced you into an evolution your enemies never saw coming. They expected a collapse, and they got a rebirth. They expected a breakdown, and they got your awakening. They expected silence, and they got this cold, calculated version of you who doesn't play by old rules anymore. Let's be even clearer. You didn't survive by luck. You survived because the part of you built from your ancestors' strength refused to disappear. The universe watched you suffer hits that should have wiped entire family lines out of existence, and you still stood back up. Do you understand how rare that is? Do you understand how terrifying that makes you to people who can't even handle minor discomfort? You became the nightmare of the ones who wronged you, not because you harmed them, but because you healed, because you rose, because you refused to stay broken, because you turned every ounce of destruction into a blueprint for your domination. You became the reminder of what they lost. You became the proof of their failure. You became the version of yourself they never deserved. And now, look at you. Look at the calm in your eyes. Look at the precision in your choices. Look at the power in your silence. You're not healed. You're transformed. You're not soft. You're strategic. You're not the wounded one. You're the upgraded one. And every step you take now is a step they never expected you to reach. This is the part where most people would ask, what did you become? But you already know. You became the impossible. You became the exception. You became the version of yourself the universe waited for. And the enemy? They became footnotes in your origin story. Now keep walking. The next chapter is waiting, and it fears you more than you fear it. Number 2. You shattered the limits of what a human is supposed to survive. They didn't underestimate you. They miscalculated the creature you were turning into. Some people heal. You resurrected yourself with no witnesses. They thought you'd break. You rewrote the definition of breaking. You weren't supposed to survive, and that's exactly why you did. Let's not pretend this is normal. Nothing about what you survived fits inside the cute, comfortable boxes people try to put trauma in. You didn't just push through hardship. You didn't just stay strong. You obliterated the entire measuring system. You broke the survival scale so violently that anyone trying to compare their journey to yours ends up confused, terrified, or in denial. Because your story doesn't make sense in any rational framework. It defies psychology, statistics, and basic human biology. And you walk around like it's just another Tuesday. Do you understand how deeply unnatural that is? Imagine this for a second. A machine designed to withstand 50 pounds of pressure is suddenly hit with 1,000. By all laws of physics, it should implode. Wires everywhere, sparks, smoke, silence. But instead, the machine absorbs the force, stabilizes, and then upgrades itself. That's you. You're the machine that didn't just cheat the system, you rewrote the instructions. Therapists don't teach this. Motivational speakers don't talk about this. There are no 10 steps to surviving what should have killed you guides, because nobody expected someone like you to exist. Nobody prepared for a being who walked through psychological conditions labeled as incompatible with human functioning and came out with your sanity sharpened instead of shattered. If researchers studied you, they wouldn't know where to start. They'd argue you're an outlier, a glitch, an anomaly, someone whose nervous system should have crashed years ago, but somehow stabilized into something stronger. Let me answer the first question in your mind. Why me? Why did I survive when I shouldn't have? Because you weren't just surviving the pain, you were absorbing it, mutating through it, becoming something new with every hit. Every betrayal hardened your spirit. Every loss expanded your mind. Every emotional ambush rewired your clarity. You didn't just withstand trauma. You ate it, metabolized it, forged new layers from it. Most people crumble when reality cracks. You stepped through the cracks and built a kingdom underground. And people can feel it. That's why they get weird around you. They sense you've been to a place they'll never touch. A mental battlefield with no medics, no rescue missions, no maps. A place where people see their shadow selves and either break or become something else entirely. You came back from that battlefield with this eerie stillness in your eyes. Not emptiness, not numbness. Something much deeper, the calm of someone who has already survived their worst day. The calm of someone who knows that if everything fell apart tomorrow, they'd still find a way through it. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff while a storm tries to tear you apart. Most people crawl back to safety, shaking, praying, begging. You stood there, stared into the storm, and let it hit you until it got tired, until it ran out of power, until it started fearing you. That's the energy you carry now. It's the kind of energy that makes people lower their voices around you without knowing why. It's the kind of energy that exposes people's insecurities the moment they stand next to you. You want another metaphor? Imagine someone going through a spiritual drought so long, so painfully dry, that even hope becomes a rumor. Most people would collapse from thirst. But you dug your nails into the ground and found water where there wasn't supposed to be any. You became your own well, your own source, your own resurrection point. That's not survival, that's evolution under impossible pressure. People don't understand why you're so calm now, why you don't react, why you don't panic, why you don't cling. They try to label you as detached or cold because they don't know what it feels like to rebuild yourself without witnesses. They don't know what it feels like to live through experiences that erase entire bloodlines. You lived through that, quietly, with a resolve that isn't loud or dramatic, just terrifyingly steady. Let's address another question you're probably thinking. Why do I feel so disconnected from people who haven't been through this? Because you outgrew their dimension. They're still dealing with surface-level chaos while you've navigated emotional underworlds. You've experienced psychological gravity they can't comprehend. You've walked through nightmares where the only person who could save you was you. After that, how are you supposed to relate to small talk? How are you supposed to pretend life is simple? How are you supposed to be impressed by people who fall apart over inconveniences? Your presence alone exposes the weakness in others, not because you're trying to intimidate anyone, but because your energy is forged from places most people can't even imagine. People sense that you've been burned and frozen at the same time. They sense the weight you carry, the battles you fought, the layers you rebuilt. They sense the silence you earned through suffering, not through avoidance. Imagine surviving an emotional earthquake that shattered everything in your life. Buildings gone, streets cracked, sky dark. Most people would stand there sobbing, screaming, paralyzed. But you started rebuilding with your bare hands. You didn't wait for rescue. You didn't wait for validation. You didn't wait for someone to save you. You stitched your mind back together piece by piece. And now the foundation you stand on is stronger than what existed before the collapse. This is why people misread you. They look at your calm and think it means you're healed. They don't understand that your calm is the armor you earned through battles they'll never even hear about. Your silence is not weakness. It's the sound of someone who mastered emotions that used to drown them. Your lack of reaction is not apathy. It's wisdom learned the hardest way possible. You're not detached, you're leveled up. Let's make something brutally clear. You broke the scale of survival so completely that people who hurt you can't even look at you without remembering who they used to be. They remember the version of you they tried to destroy. They remember the control they thought they had. They remember the fear you were supposed to carry forever. But now they look at you and see a calm they can't interpret. A strength they didn't give you. A mirror they don't want to face. And here's the real twist. Your survival exposed them. It proved every prediction wrong. It proved every insult useless. It proved every betrayal shallow. You became the proof that destruction doesn't always destroy. It sometimes transforms. And that transformation scares people more than your pain ever did. So yes, Chosen One, you broke the system. You broke the scale. You broke expectations, predictions, and statistics. Everything they thought would crush you became the blueprint for the version of you standing here now. And that version, it doesn't tremble. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't bow. It walks forward with the quiet confidence of someone who has already survived their apocalypse. Keep going. You weren't meant to fit the scale. You were meant to surpass it. Number 3. You died in the dark and came back unrecognizable. Funny how they brag about surviving bad days while you survived entire versions of yourself dying. Let's call it what it was. You didn't grow. You didn't heal. You flat out died and resurrected in silence, like some forbidden experiment the universe didn't sign off on, while everyone around you was melting down over minor inconveniences. You were going through psychological extinction events with no audience, no applause, no comforting hand to hold. You faced horrors that would have sent most people into lifelong shutdown, and you handled it like someone who didn't have the luxury of breaking. Imagine this: a person drowning in a locked room, learning to breathe underwater because the door never opened. That was you. No one came. No one checked. No one cared enough to ask why your voice got quiet, why your eyes changed, why your whole soul felt heavier than gravity. You went through transformations that should have taken decades, but you did them in nights, in minutes, in moments that no one else even noticed. And what came back wasn't the same version that died, not even close. You didn't resurrect into some enlightened angel. You came back darker, sharper, more dangerous. You became the thing that happens when pain stops trying to break you and starts trying to work with you. You built a frequency out of suffering, a signal only certain people can sense. Those who hear it either run like cowards or kneel like they're facing a legend. There's no middle ground anymore, and you know it. You're probably wondering, why did I have to go through it alone? Because the universe wanted privacy while it rebuilt you. It wanted no interference, no noise, no softness. It wanted you to rise without influence, so the final product was purely you. And now, you walk around with the quiet confidence of someone who has died before, someone who has nothing left to fear, someone whose darkness isn't brokenness, it's evolution. You didn't just resurrect, you returned upgraded, unrecognizable, untouchable. Number 4, the pain that rebuilt your blueprint. They tried to break you. Instead, they became the construction materials. That pain you swallowed wasn't washed away. It became the architecture of who you are now. Every hit, every betrayal, every silent battlefield rewired you from the inside out. You didn't just change, you rebuilt your entire operating system. Your nervous system isn't the same. Your perception isn't the same. Your reactions aren't the same. You look human on the outside, but what's running under your skin, that's something else entirely. Imagine this. A building destroyed by an earthquake, yet instead of collapsing into dust, the structure absorbs the shockwaves and rebuilds itself stronger, taller, unshakable. That's what happened inside you. Pain became the steel in your bones. Loss became the blueprint for your instincts. Betrayal became the fireproofing around your heart. You aren't a survivor. You're a reconstructed weapon disguised as a person, and you've felt the effects. You walk into rooms now, and the temperature drops a degree. People shift in their seats. Strangers stiffen. Old acquaintances suddenly forget how to maintain eye contact. That's not intimidation, it's recognition. They can sense you've carried storms that should have erased entire bloodlines. They feel the weight of the extinctions that almost happened but didn't, because you refuse to let your story die. You might wonder, why do people act different around me now? Because your presence exposes what they've never faced. You're built from the ruins they would never survive. Your energy carries the echo of every collapse you walked through and every resurrection you completed alone. You're not threatening them intentionally. Your existence threatens their comfort zones. Imagine someone walking into a room holding a history of earthquakes inside their ribcage. That's you. Your aura vibrates at a frequency that only the broken or the brave can understand. Everyone else either stares in confusion or excuses themselves with a shaky smile. And here's the truth you already feel, but never say out loud. You don't move like someone who healed. You move like someone who transformed. Pain didn't just shape you. It became your architecture, your structure, your signature. And now the world adjusts to you, not the other way around. Number 5. The silence that makes the world nervous. You don't walk with confidence. You walk with the calm of someone who already met death and told it to wait. Let's get one thing straight. You survived disasters that would have erased entire dynasties from history. Not families, dynasties, generations. Whole storylines would have ended if someone else took the hit you took. And yet, here you are, moving through life with this unsettling, dangerous calm, like a storm that learned how to sit perfectly still. What you carry now isn't loud, it's not theatrical, it's the kind of power that speaks in low frequencies, the type only the perceptive can hear. Imagine a volcano pretending to be a mountain, still, quiet, unbothered. But anyone with instinct knows something ancient is sleeping under the surface. That's you. Your silence isn't weakness, it's warning. And the wildest part? You're not even trying to flex. You're doing normal things, working, making coffee, answering messages, walking into rooms like you didn't casually survive a psychological apocalypse built specifically for your destruction. You talk like a civilian, but you move like someone who graduated from hell without telling anyone. People think you're okay because they only see the shell, not the circuitry. They see your smile, not the miles of scar tissue underneath. They think you're fine because they can't fathom a creature operating on reserves that shouldn't exist. You're running on strength that doesn't come from motivation. It comes from resurrection. From death you decided wasn't going to stick. From battles you fought without an audience. You might wonder, why do I feel separate from everyone? Because you're not standing where they're standing anymore. You're beyond fear, beyond panic, beyond collapse. When someone has already survived their own ending, the world can no longer scare them. Your quiet is not emptiness. Your calm is not softness. Your existence alone is proof of impossible survival, and people feel it, even if they pretend they don't. Number 6. The graveyard of the ones who couldn't follow you. You didn't outshine them. You outlived what killed them. Let's talk about the ghosts, the ones who walked the same fire you did, but never made it out. The world won't say their names. The world won't acknowledge the battlefield, but you've seen it. You've seen how many souls didn't survive the collapse you crawled through. Some drowned in addictions, trying to numb the pressure. Some disappeared into pills because their minds cracked under the weight. Some froze at year 1 and never moved again, while you somehow kept walking through year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, like a glitch in the survival algorithm. Imagine a race where 99 fall before the first mile. Imagine a storm that scatters everyone else across the map, leaving you alone, standing in the wreckage. That's your timeline. You weren't supposed to be here. People with your trauma stats don't make it. They don't heal. They don't find peace. They vanish quietly, swallowed by the same abyss that opened under your feet. You might wonder, why me? Why didn't I break? It wasn't luck. It wasn't destiny. It wasn't because you were chosen by some magical force. It was because something primal inside you refused to let the enemy win. There was a part of you, silent, stubborn, ancient, that looked into the abyss and whispered, "Not today." And then you took another step, and another, and another, until suddenly you were miles beyond the collapse and had no idea how far you'd traveled. Here's the hard truth. You didn't survive because you were protected. You survived because you were relentless, because you hated the idea of your story ending with someone else's victory, because you decided that even if you died inside 1,000 times, you would resurrect 1,000 more. The others didn't make it, but you did, and that alone terrifies every enemy who ever bet on your downfall. Number 7. The collapse. They waited for never arrived. They didn't underestimate you. They overestimated the damage. Let's drag this into the light. They fully expected your collapse to be a public event, a spectacle, a meltdown they could watch from a safe distance, whispering, "See, nobody survives that." They waited for the crack. The breakdown, the begging, the moment you'd finally kneel so they could pretend they were right about you all along. But that moment never came. Imagine them standing there with their predictions in hand, eyes wide, waiting for your downfall the way people wait for a storm forecast that never hits. They burned you, betrayed you, humiliated you, and then parked themselves front row, expecting the show of your destruction. Instead, you just kept walking, not loudly, not dramatically, just silently, steadily, like someone who already knew how the story ends. And that's when the fear kicked in, because every day you didn't crumble was another day they had to face the brutal truth. You're not built like them. You don't break like them. You don't fall apart on command. You don't give them the satisfaction of watching you shatter. You saw the damage, absorbed it, stabilized yourself, and moved on with a calm that made them question their entire existence. You might wonder, why were they so sure I'd fall apart? Because their minds can't stretch far enough to imagine someone surviving what you did. They only know how they would have reacted, and if they had gone through even 15% of your pain, they would have folded instantly. That's why they projected their fragility onto you. That's why they prayed for your collapse. It was the only proof they had that the world made sense. But you're the outlier, the anomaly, the glitch in their logic. Some people suffocate in darkness. You breathe it like oxygen. Some people fall apart under pressure. You metabolize it into fuel. Some people lose themselves when things fall apart. You find your sharpest self in the ruins. You walked through devastation like it was part of your training. And now you move with the quiet certainty of someone who's already lived through the worst and didn't stay dead. They expected you to crumble, but instead, you became the version of yourself they never wanted to meet. Number 8. You didn't heal. You mutated. Healing fixes what broke. Evolution replaces what no longer belonged to you. Let's clear the smoke. You didn't heal. Healing implies restoration, returning, rebuilding the old shape. But the old you, that version died in the collapse. That version was buried under betrayals, losses, and psychological warfare designed to erase your identity. You're not walking around patched up. You're walking around brand new, rebuilt from the ashes of someone who didn't survive. Imagine a creature forced to adapt in an environment with no oxygen. It shouldn't live, right? It should suffocate, collapse, disappear. But instead, it grows new lungs, a new biology, a new structure made to thrive in conditions that would kill everything else. That's what you did. You didn't bounce back. You adapted to conditions completely incompatible with human consciousness. You evolved under pressure that should have erased you. Most people heal and return to who they were. You didn't return to anything. You advanced. You sharpened. You rewired your emotional architecture with materials found only in darkness. The things that should have broken you didn't fix you. They transformed you. You became someone who navigates reality with instincts forged in crisis, with a nervous system rebuilt after extinction-level events. And the wildest part? You're stable, solid, operating like a quiet superweapon they can't identify. They look at you and assume you're fine because they can't understand that the storm didn't leave you cracked. It left you upgraded. You might wonder, why don't I feel like my old self? Because that person is gone, and they needed to be gone. You didn't heal back into them. You evolved into someone who can handle realities they never could. You're not the before version. You're the after version, the one born from ruin, rebuilt with precision and stronger in ways no language can fully capture. You didn't heal, you evolved. Number 9. The stillness they can't manipulate. When someone has already negotiated with their own darkness, nobody else's tricks can move them. Your lack of reaction is the loudest thing about you now, and it terrifies people in ways they'll never admit. They poke at you with guilt trips, subtle digs, emotional traps, and old tricks they used to rely on. And you don't even flinch. You just look at them with that unsettling calm, the kind that makes them wonder what you've seen, what you've survived, and why their games don't land anymore. Imagine someone trying to scare a firefighter with a candle flame. That's what dealing with you feels like now. They're out here throwing sparks while you've survived infernos big enough to collapse identities. You've had conversations with your own darkness, face to face, in the kind of silence that breaks normal people. You navigated internal worlds that would make them lose their grip on reality, and you came back with clarity instead of fear. That's why you move colder now, not cruel, just clear. You don't respond from emotion, you respond from awareness, from experience, from a place beyond panic, beyond need, beyond old habits, and that makes you dangerous in the quietest way. You're not reactive, you're not predictable, you're not someone they can push, bend, or guilt into submission. You might wonder, why does my calm unsettle them so much? because they're used to controlling people with emotional chaos, but you've already survived chaos so intense it reconstructed your entire identity. Their tactics are too small now, too shallow, too familiar. You see the entire pattern before they even open their mouths, and that alone disarms them. Your unreactive nature isn't numbness, it's liberation. You've detached from the hooks that once grabbed you. You've escaped the old scripts, the old dynamics, the old triggers. Unreactive, uncontrollable, free. You became the one thing every manipulator fears, a mind they can't move and a soul they can't reach. Number 10. The reflection they've spent years running from. You're not intimidating, their reflection is. You didn't ask to become a mirror, but that's exactly what you turned into the moment you survived what should have erased you. People step into your presence and instantly feel exposed, judged, or measured, even when you're not thinking about them at all. It's not your words, it's not your attitude, it's your existence. Your survival alone is a spotlight on everything they've been avoiding inside themselves. Imagine someone who's spent their whole life hiding behind excuses, suddenly standing in front of a reflection that shows the truth with brutal clarity. That's what you are now. You walk into the room and they feel the weight of their own laziness, their own fears, their own failures. Not because you point it out, but because you're living proof that hardship doesn't justify giving up. You're living evidence that survival is possible, growth is possible, evolution is possible, and that terrifies them. People hate mirrors that don't lie, and you reflect every choice they avoided, every battle they refused to fight, every fear they surrendered to. Your calm isn't peace, it's a verdict. It forces them to confront the fact that their excuses were just excuses. They tell themselves, they must think they're better than me, but it's not you judging them. It's their conscience waking up for the first time in years. You might wonder, why do people distance themselves when I've done nothing wrong? Because standing next to you makes weakness echo louder. Your strength exposes their shortcuts. Your stability highlights their chaos. Your resilience forces them to admit the truth they've been dodging. If you survived hell and came back standing, then maybe they could have stood up too, but didn't. So they avoid you, not because you're difficult, not because you're cold, but because looking at you is like looking into a mirror they can't escape, and they despise the reflection. Number 11. The recognition you'll never get. You wanted applause, but the universe gave you something better: evolution. Here's the punchline you didn't want, but needed. No one is coming to acknowledge you. Nobody's waiting at the finish line with a medal, a hug, or a moment of clarity where they suddenly get you. When you crawled out of hell, you expected at least one person, friend, family, someone, to meet you at the door. But the hallway was empty. Just you, your shaking hands, and the echo of everything you survived. At first it felt like betrayal, didn't it? Like the world owed you recognition for not dying, but then you realized the truth. Witnesses would have cheapened the transformation. You didn't need applause to validate what you survived. You were there. You felt every shattered second of it. Your private victory is real because you lived through what should have erased you. Imagine a creature evolving in a sealed chamber. No audience, no teacher, no guide. When it steps out, the world doesn't clap. They stare. That's you now. You became what nightmares look for when they're scared. You're not a survivor. Survivors go back to normal. You didn't go back. You mutated into a psychological diamond under pressure no human should withstand. And trust me, they're watching. Old friends pretending not to notice, family whispering, enemies squinting like their eyes are malfunctioning. Your survival breaks their worldview. You should be bitter, broken, dysfunctional. But you're calm, unsettlingly calm. A type of calm that doesn't need approval, attention, or validation. You might wonder, why didn't anyone show up for me? Because they couldn't. Your journey was built for one traveler, and the power you carry now only exists because you walked it alone. You survived conditions that erase bloodlines. That means nothing left in the human arsenal can touch you. Jobs, relationships, public humiliation. Please, you've survived worse in silence. You're untouchable, not because you're protected, but because you already burned and didn't die. Number 12, the evolution they never saw coming. You weren't rebuilt, you were reprogrammed. Let's get this straight. You didn't heal, you mutated. Not in body, but in the places that matter more. Your psychology, your emotional reflexes, your inner architecture. Pressure twisted you, shattered you, rewired you, and the result wasn't some soft rebirth. It was an adaptation no rulebook prepared for. You developed survival mechanisms that shouldn't even exist in the human playbook. You read people before their mouths even open. You feel energy shifts like sudden temperature drops. You catch lies not through words, but through frequency. That's not paranoia. That's precision. That's what happens when extinction-level pain becomes your training ground. Imagine an organism forced to survive in an environment with zero oxygen. It should die instantly. Instead, it grows a new system, a new instinct, a new way of breathing. That's you. Trauma didn't make you weaker. It evolved your senses into weapons. You're hyper-aware, hyper-perceptive, hyper-intelligent in ways normal people can't comprehend. That sensitivity they mock. That's your danger. That's your edge. And let's be brutally honest, you owe no one explanations. None. They weren't with you in the dark. They didn't sit with you through nights that felt like centuries. Some even watched, hoping you'd fall apart so they could feel justified in their own weakness. Let them wonder now. Let them invent stories to fill the gaps their cowardice created. Because your transformation is yours, your identity is yours, your evolution was paid for in suffering they couldn't survive for 5 minutes. You didn't crawl through psychological warfare just to shrink yourself for fragile people. You didn't survive internal extinction just to return as a watered-down version of who you used to be. What you are now is unprecedented. A blueprint never seen before, a mind rebuilt in ruins, a spirit sharpened in silence. The question isn't whether you'll make it. You already did. The real question is this: what are you about to build from the rubble that failed to bury you? And now you stand here at the edge of everything you survived, carrying a power the world never expected you to hold. You walked through destruction and came out redesigned, rebuilt, and unrecognizable to the ones who tried to end you. This is your new beginning, chosen one. If this message hit your soul the way your journey hit your scars, make it echo. Hit like, subscribe, drop 777 in the comments, and share this with someone who's rising from their own ruins. Let the world feel the frequency you earned in silence.